Hello, my name is Matt Ivy, and I am a Disability Advisor here at Reading University. Today I will be running through Disabled Students Allowance in general, and importantly the DSA 2 letter. What is DSA, and what support can it potentially offer you? Disabled Students Allowance is support to cover the study-related costs. You can receive support for a range of conditions including mental health problems, long-term illnesses, dyslexia, ASD, and/or any other disability. This can be on its own or in addition to any student finance you get. The type of support and how much you get depends on your individual needs, not your household income, and does not need to be paid back at the end of your course. Now let's look at eligibility. It is important to note that some students will not be eligible for DSA support. You cannot get DSA if you are an EU student eligible for fee support only, eligible for NHS Disabled Students Allowance, this is a separate scheme to what we are discussing today, receiving an NHS or social work bursary, on a higher degree or apprenticeship course, or if you are from overseas, not a UK-based learner. If this affects you, please discuss your situation with a disability advisor, as we may well be able to recommend other ways of receiving support for you, such as through access to work. For part-time students, your course intensity can affect how much DSA you are entitled to. Course intensity means how long your course takes to complete each year compared to its full-time equivalent. If you are studying part-time, your course cannot take any more than 4 times longer than the equivalent full-time course and must be at least 12 months. For students studying a course which involves a placement year, you will only be eligible for DSA on the placement year if you are attending full-time study for 10 weeks or more. Please contact the Disability Advisory Service for clarification if you have any queries. You can contact the Disability Advisory Service at Reading University on disability@reading.ac.uk. Now let's discuss evidence. It is important that you are able to present sufficient evidence to qualify for DSA. This can include a letter from your doctor, hospital consultant, psychiatrist, or similar health professional if you have a physical disability, a medical condition, a mental health condition, or a sensory impairment. Furthermore, a diagnostic assessment undertaken by an education psychologist or similar professional and conducted post 16 years should be acceptable evidence for a specific learning difficulty such as, for example, dyslexia. Any supporting documentation must show your condition or disability has or is likely to last longer than 12 months. It is important to be aware of relevant funding bodies. The Disabled Students Allowance is accessible via various funding bodies, dependent on your location and course. The funding bodies are as follows: Student Finance England, Student Finance Wales, Student Finance Northern Ireland, SAAS Student Awards Agency for Scotland, NHS Student Bursaries. Please keep this in mind when applying for DSA. Now let's discuss applications and assessment around DSA. Once you've made your application for DSA, it is important to note that your DSA application can take up to 14 weeks to process, so apply as soon as you can. Firstly, complete your funding body's application form. Often this can be done online. If you are eligible, your funding body will send you an eligibility letter. For assistance, please contact the Disability Advisory Service. You'll then need to look at booking a DSA needs assessment. After a few weeks, if you are eligible, you will receive a DSA 1 eligibility letter from your funding body, and you will then need to book a DSA needs assessment. To find your nearest DSA needs assessment centre, please visit the gov.uk website. A DSA needs assessment is a one-to-one confidential discussion between you and a trained assessor to identify your learning support needs. The assessor then writes a report that makes recommendations to your funding body and higher education institution as to how these needs should be met. Moving forward, we will now discuss the DSA-2 letter. If recommendations made in your needs assessment report are approved, your funding body will send you a DSA-2 entitlement letter. Once Student Finance have received a copy of your needs assessment report, you will be issued with a DSA-2 letter. This is usually sent to the email address provided with your application. A DSA-2 letter tells you exactly what has been approved in terms of software, equipment, and non-medical help support, and who will be supplying this. There is an example of a DSA-2 letter in this presentation. Now, let's look at what you need to do next. And please be aware and mindful of the example DSA-2 letter on screen. Once you've received your DSA-2 letter, you can start ordering the items and support listed on the letter by either calling or emailing the supplier. You will need to have your customer reference number with you when contacting the suppliers, as you will need this to verify your entitlement. Let's have a look at the Specialist Equipment Allowance section. This section shows any equipment you are entitled to via DSA. All support is laid out with the named supplier and their contact details. As you can see in this DSA-2 letter, Remtech are the named supplier. However, it is important to note there are many other suppliers. You will need to contact the supplier to arrange your support, i.e., in this circumstance, you would need to contact Remtech and include your quote number listed in the table, as this is linked to your record. You can find a breakdown of items you are ordering on Appendix 1. Important things to note: insurance is important and is included as part of your equipment package from the date you receive your equipment. You must ensure the terms and conditions of the insurance when you receive your equipment. DSA cannot be used to meet the costs of replacement equipment when the original has been lost, stolen, or damaged. The supplier will want to see a copy of this letter to confirm the agreement. They will then invoice us directly for the agreed amount. If you have any issues with the equipment, you should contact the supplier. Now, moving forward, let's discuss non-medical helpers allowance, general allowance, and further information. Non-medical helpers are people who can provide support for students with a disability. This can include specialist one-to-one study skills tutors, specialist mentors, assistive technology trainers, BSL sign language interpreters. You will need to contact the relevant suppliers to arrange this support. You'll receive the support at the arranged time and need to sign timesheets to confirm the support has been provided. The provider will invoice directly to the DSA, who will cover the costs of the support. The general allowance part of disabled student allowance is awarded to cover consumable costs, such as audio tapes, braille paper, extra photocopying, and books that have been recommended in your assessment of study needs. Some students will be granted a printing allowance as part of their DSA entitlement. This can be found at the bottom of your DSA-2 letter. You may be wondering how DSA is paid. Money is paid into either your bank account or directly to the organisation providing the service or equipment. You'll find out how your support will be paid into after your assessment needs. If you require equipment that hasn't been agreed as part of your DSA entitlement, you'll need to contact your needs assessor to discuss your requirement. If you want to upgrade your equipment, you'll need to pay any extra costs for this. If you want to purchase your own computer, you'll need to email the DSA for further information. If you experience any issues with your equipment whilst it's under warranty, you'll need to contact your equipment supplier. If you experience any issues with your equipment when it's no longer under warranty, you'll need to contact the DSA team by email. If you are not happy with your equipment, in the first instance, you should contact your equipment supplier to discuss your queries or concerns. If this remains unresolved, you'll need to contact the DSA team by email. If your circumstances change, this may affect your support. For example, if you've changed university or college, the supplier of your non-medical helpers support may need changing. You need to email the DSA team advising of any changes so they can ensure that your correct entitlement is in place. If your medical condition hasn't been taken into account during your study needs assessment, or your medical condition worsens, you need to send a copy of your medical evidence to the DSA team. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Should you have any further comments or queries, please do contact the Reading University Disability Advisory Service on disability@reading.ac.uk.